Ludo Know. Asha is from a freeware action-adventure game called Iji. Iji's development started back in 2004 by Daniel Remar. Remar drew inspiration from many sources, one of them being an old webcomic he used to run called Ultimate Mortal. Certain aspects of the game took months, such as drawing out the many cutscenes and gathering the voice actors to record their lines. Creating the game's many levels took a few weeks each, with the exception of Section 5, which was completed in only 3 days. Remar would sometimes take a break that lasted a couple of months to keep his motivation up. He stated in an interview that for animation, he built and rigged the animations in Blender and had to move them frame by frame. This process was so tedious that it nearly killed his will to complete the game. In the summer of 2006, Remar set a deadline for himself, aiming to complete the game before 2008. He began to playtest the game much more and work at a faster pace, believing he was more than halfway done. Sector X, the 10th and final story mission of the game, proved to be a much bigger hassle than anticipated. To make matters worse, his computer crashed 2 different times while tiling the stage's layout after working for several hours in a row. By December of 2007, it was clear he wasn't going to make his deadline. However, Remar continued to work, and even watched other playtesters experience Iji for themselves. Remar would simply watch, opting to say nothing. On his site, he states, "I recommend this testing procedure. Don't describe it, and make no excuses. Just sit behind silently and watch them play. Even better is to have one person play and their close friend look on, so they'll discuss what they're seeing more naturally." Leading up to the release, Remar would update a news site written by a character from the game, Yuka Sabera. It logs the nerd's journal and provides additional background story behind the Tassin's race to find a new home. It was updated twice a month leading up to the game's launch date, September 1st, 2008. Remar admitted that feedback was mostly negative on initial release, with the game still needing tweaks and bug fixes. However, Remar served forums where feedback was more negative and discussed ways to improve the game via patches and updates. With each new patch, new features were added, along with bug fixes. A 1.7 version was even released after 7 years, to port the game over to an updated engine and allow it to run smoothly on modern computers. Iji is an action platformer with RPG elements. The character is able to collect pickups and obtain experience points in the form of nano. When they level up, the player can allocate skill points into various builds. For example, they could put points into cracking, which allows them to break into crates, or attack, to deal more damage. They can also put points into Kamado or Tassin weaponry to pick up a wider arsenal, and even combine weapon functions by having enough points in both weaponry and crack skills. Players can also put more points into carrying more ammo, health, or strength to kick enemies and doors down. Maxing out a stat also rewards a unique perk. The player can also choose to spare or kill certain characters to trigger different scripted events to occur. Having a certain number of kills on your belt can change the game and play out a different ending. The player can also choose to utilize passive weapons and choose not to kill anyone, allowing them to form allies and view alternate cutscenes as well. The game itself has a plethora of references from other games Remar has played in the past. Remar stated that Iji is essentially a 2D System Shock, with how the player can allocate skill points and crack machines and other enemies. The visuals themselves were based off the 1991 PC title, Another World, where simplistic art is combined with fluid animation. Those weren't the only games that drew inspiration. Remar stated in an interview that many games, perhaps subconsciously, are referenced. The auto shotgun is a combination of a shotgun and machine gun inspired by Blackthorne. The General Kamado's attacks are references to weapons in Tyrian, and a small bug-like enemy called Blitz was inspired by blobs from Metroid Zero Mission. As for Asha himself, he is a Kamado assassin. The Kamado are another race, slowly introduced to the player throughout the story. The Kamado seek out the Tassin, a race that broke away from the Kamado and are trying to find a new home. They reach Earth, and Alpha strike the planet while Iji visits her dad. The attack was dialed back, wiping out most of the human race and destroying nearly everything on the surface so the Tassin can settle on a new home. Iji wakes up 6 months after the attack and is given a quick catch-up by her brother Dan. He informs her over the PA system that nearly everyone she knows and loves is dead due to the alien invasion. He then reveals that she's been implanted with the Tassin nanofield, which is ran by thousands of nanomachines. She can assimilate other nano from fallen soldiers or from bundles left about and use the resources to grow stronger. She must set out to confront the Tassin leader to spare the humans. Eventually, the Kamado discover that the Tassin are on Earth and come to invade so they can wipe the entire race out. One of the Kamado is an assassin-class soldier named Asha. Asha is equipped with a teleporter, laser daggers, dual plasma cannon, automatic resonance reflector, and electro mines. He confronts Iji as the Sector 5 boss and challenges her on the rooftops. When defeated, he teleports away, vowing revenge. The player can actually end this fight automatically by acquiring 2 weapons and cracking them into a nuke. Firing it at the start ends the battle instantly, scaring Asha to retreat. Asha continues to harass Iji any way he can, doctoring logs and trying to instill distrust into Iji by implying that her brother was trying to make a deal to turn her in. Other logs provide background behind his class and history. Assassins fight by committing a mental map of the area they stalk and refuse to confront enemies in locations they're unfamiliar with. This is due to the teleporter they use, so they can avoid accidents such as morphing into walls. This explains why Asha has only 1 arm. When an attack went wrong, he ended up teleporting half his arm into a wall. A rather morbidly hilarious reference can be seen in Slap City. When Asha is defeated in Versus, you can see his other arm has been warped inside a platform. Sector 8 ends with Asha kidnapping Dan and holding him hostage at the end. Depending on the player's actions, Asha may end up killing Dan or be forced to let him go to run off once more. The attack used to kill Dan is again referenced in Slap when he grabs an opponent and electrocutes him as a pummel. Sector X is when Asha confronts Iji once more. Logs leading up to the battle state that Asha had been training to avoid any weapon. However, it also states that he purposely takes damage from weak weapons, referring to the player's shotgun. It's implied that he does this out of pride, and Asha feels dodging such weak weaponry would be beneath him. The second battle has a number of flags that can play the fight out differently. If Asha has killed Dan, then Iji is left in a delusional state, where she's reduced to cutting Asha's monologue off by screaming at him. The player can be defeated and be brought back to a checkpoint. Confronting Asha again has him taunting the player, expressing joy over killing him twice. An exploit by GMC user Kidjarden discovered that the player can work around and encounter him a 3rd time. This causes Asha to go ballistic and shout at Iji in frustration. The player can also skip this fight completely by acquiring the last 2 weapons from both the Tassin and the Komodo line. By combining them together, the player can craft them into a weapon that can shoot through these particular bolt doors to destroy a core needed to open a security gate. By skipping Asha, logs near the end of the stage can be read, revealing Asha's fate. Due to his obsession, the assassins had deserted him completely, and by being denied a chance to get his revenge, Asha decided to blow himself up out of shame. Ansaskie is an alternative skin for Asha. She's a female assassin that's gone rogue and a known illegal weapons carrier. The player can only come across hints of her existence by doing a pacifist playthrough. If the player has less than 5 kills per sector, then she will appear in Sector 9. She activates a teleporter inside the Tassin's final stronghold, and the player must make their way down the dark abandoned passageways. There, they must fight off the many assassins that wait to flank the player on their way down and back up. By proving themselves, the player can meet Ansaskie near the exit, who offers her help to fight the upcoming boss, Iosa the Invincible. With Ansaskie as an ally, the player can avoid performing a kill, with the assassin dealing the final blow herself. She then meets Iji one last time before the final boss. Leading up to the boss, the player can pick up the Massacre, one of the strongest weapons in the game, but this is only gifted if Iji has 0 kills. Talking to her repeatedly also prompts a humorous text where she complains about having a broken translator and decides to stay in that cool pose. One of her skin palettes is also a reference to Iosa the Invincible. She is an Annihilator, equipped with a large mech. Iosa has a history with the Tassin herself. She was being experimented on by being implanted with powerful nanofields with no set limit to how much nano can be accumulated. During the war, the Tassin awfully struck her planet, killing everyone and leaving her as the only survivor. It's implied that the only reason Iji was able to defeat her was due to the fact that by kicking Iosa, their 2 nanofields come to a head, creating incredible blunt force that dazes Iosa and opens her to being cracked. There is a playthrough option that allows the player to spare Iosa, however it opens up an alternate ending that I won't spoil here. Outside of Iji, Asha doesn't make too many appearances. He is shown on an uncommon attack card in Card City Knights that can do 1 additional damage, and a rare card that randomly moves across the board and is self-activated in Card City Knights too. The same can be said with Ansaskie, where she only appears on a common revive card in the first title. Other Iji characters however make appearances as NPC characters. Iji and her younger sister Mia show up as NPCs, and Iosa the Invincible appears as Mad Scientist. General Tor, the final boss of Iji, also shows up as an NPC in Card City Knights 2. If you speak to him repeatedly, he eventually brings up a prompt where he dreamed of being a general for a warring alien race. And let's clear this up with a few little trivia facts. Ludo Know that Asha's name was taken from Iji's voice actress' surname, Anna Ashabova? Asha also has a unique song that plays when he speaks. The radio talk song is a bit indistinguishable, but thankfully Remar's site has a transcript. It reads, "Total destruction is imminent. This is without a doubt the final battle for Peronian Sun. We need everybody to evacuate and bring all your Carlsberg to the front desk. I repeat, bring all your Carlsberg. System shut down." And finally, a particular voice line by Asha, voiced by Ola Homdal, was inspired by the character Lunar from the N64 title Mischief Makers.
You're mine! You're mine!
And thank you guys so much for watching. I wanted to thank Lawlzer, who gave me permission to use the awesome Asha clips used for the video. I've included links in the description below thanking people for the resources used to create this particular video. And oh boy was this video a doozy. It's the longest Ludo Know so far. It'll Do's is up next, and that one's gonna take a while. In the meantime, why don't you like and subscribe? I have a couple other videos in works, and I do plan to upload in between. I also want to make more Iji content since there's a ton of stuff I had to cut out, simply because there's so much content in that amazing title. And if you enjoyed this video, you can help me out by sharing it. It can really help this small channel grow, and I'm getting close to the 1,000 subscribers. It's been a slow grind climbing there, so any little help would be appreciated. And thank you Iji Medley for the art that I'm finally using after sitting on it for a couple months. Thanks. See ya.